All right.
Yes.
Well, welcome. This is the third interview with the Tool Library scene. We're here with Piper and John of the Baltimore Toollibrary, the Station North. So, thank you for having us here. It's a really inspiring place. So the first question is, why did you guys start this tool library?
So I worked in academic. I came from an academic background. Got my master's at the School for American Crafts. I studied like sculpture making, things like that. I later I was a technician for a full university for all the art departments, and I taught 3D process, and I kind of saw like a problem with working in an administration or for an administration that was selling like a hand process. Basically, it was like kids paying college tuition to go to school to learn how to work with their hands. So I thought that was kind of a little wrong. I didn't like the way that it was like being sold. I didn't like the idea of students leaving school with like a mountain of debt and really just going because they like to make things. So we started to try to brainstorm, figure out a way that we could like provide access to a studio, access to tools, access to classes and things like that people didn't have to pay like a ton of money for. We wanted to like create like an empowering thing. So that's where we started. Over the course of a couple years, like it evolved into a tool library. In the beginning, we didn't even know about tool libraries. And then as soon as we started to do a lot of research, we found tool libraries and like found like a whole world of things that we had no idea existed.
Cool.
Yeah, and largely like the neighborhood that we live in, there was a lot of vacant houses. People would oftentimes like inherit a house from like a grandparent or a relative that was like all paid for because they'd owned it for so long, but they couldn't keep up with the maintenance of it. Oftentimes because they didn't know how, and then they didn't know what tools to buy, or they couldn't afford to buy the tools. And then in small city row houses, you don't have a lot of storage space either, so we saw that as a problem as well. So we thought, we're solving lots of problems by just providing like affordable access to tools and a welcoming place where there's no silly question and people can learn how to use the basic hand tools and kind of graduate their confidence from there.
Yeah, I kind of really wanted to demystify DIY. I guess that's like a way to say it. Like to like kind of expose how easy it is to build things, or to just by following instructions or finding guides or finding plans and things like that. Like I think there's been a lot of stigma like put towards hand process, and like so people will think like, oh, I can't do that. There's no way I could ever make that. There's no way I could like fix this thing. And it's because like we've grown up in a society where there's not a lot of people that choose to learn how to do things with their hands, and the people that do things with their hands might talk about it in like this magical way, like that it's this amazing thing that nobody else can learn how to do. I do believe that there are master craftsmen still. I think that's like a very important thing, that there is like a masterful thing, but like a masterful thing, and this is like from like kind of in the anarchist design book, like the masterful thing is like consumed by like people who can afford it. Mm-hmm. And that's a very small percentage of people, and then everybody else, like should have access to something similar, but it might look a little bit different. It might not be this like $1 million amazing thing, but like you could make like a $10 version yourself that will last forever, that you like can build. You don't have to be like an amazing craftsperson to do it. But that's like the vernacular construction, like that's like the ordinary like people construction. You don't have to be like an amazing craftsperson to enjoy woodworking. Like you could make like a really ugly thing, but like you make it lasts forever. Like, and once you like start breaking down those barriers to like building things, like you learn more tricks and you learn like more ways of doing things.
So it's really about empowerment and giving people access to tools and the knowledge then.
So, and from our conversation the other day, like there's side things that are like that happen also that are like amazing. You know, like there's this like the cake that we make is affordable access to tools. You know, and there's like the icing. But there's so many different types of icing that is like, you know, we help with like sustainability. We help with like all like different things.
Yeah, cool. So can you explain a bit more how it works then, the tool library?
So from going and exploring all the different tool libraries, everyone kind of works a little bit differently, and I think that's important to recognize that, you know, a library needs to work how the community needs it to work. So we have a pretty broad socioeconomic spectrum of people that we serve. So we operate on a sliding scale. It's $1 for every $1,000 a year that somebody makes, and that's an annual membership. But there's a minimum of $15 because we recognize that sometimes people have to have a little skin in the game to have like a perceived value of something. When we first started, you could join for as little as $1, and we had a lot of problems with tools like not coming back because I think people just didn't see the overall value of this as a resource.
Yep.
So since we've established the minimum, like that has shifted pretty dramatically. We also have monthly memberships. They are also for a year, but they kind of wrap up the cost of some of our classes and break them down into 12 payments.
Okay.
So people don't have to pay, you know, out of pocket up front for a class. They can just pay like per month and it's sort of spread out. So we're just always trying to think of ways to give access to people regardless of what their financial situation is, and just break down as many barriers as possible.
Yeah. And it's also in combination with a year with the makerspace, right? So that's also something unique of your tool library, is that in the membership you can also have two days a week.
Right. So as soon as people become library members and they take our shop safety class, they can have access to our shop 2 times a week, totally for free. All the other hours in the shop are occupied by classes and our job training program, but those we kind of keep sacred because, you know, it's important to, again, like break down the barrier of how scary it is to work with stationary power tools, kind of walk people through that process. There's like a little bit of hand-holding, and then give them time to, you know, explore that. It's not just a shot in the pan deal where they come in for a safety class and then they never, you know, come back to use these tools again. I mean, that happens too, but it's all about like getting people excited and, like John was saying, demystifying the process. Like, it's not hard to use a miter saw, it's just loud and be careful where you put your fingers, and that's it. So I think that's pretty important, but that's why we wanted to do the monthly memberships, is because we recognize, you know, we have a lot of students, we have a lot of low income folks. We also have people that have a lot of disposable income that really love what we do and that are willing to spend their money here, and so that's kind of the balance. I mean, I think any good nonprofit, you have to balance like a little bit of a capitalist attitude, and see like where your potential revenue streams are, because the traditional nonprofit model of only relying on grants and donations just isn't sustainable.
It's funny, like we had somebody come and ask us if we are like capitalists, or we have like a capitalist, like want to build like a capitalist system in, you know, in our tool lending library.
Really?
Yeah, it was the guys from Italy. But it's, you know, like we have to think about a way to make money, to like sell a product, to like build a smart program that can support itself, so that we're not always relying on like asking for money. You know, I think that's like a really important thing. But we had amazing support to build these systems that, you know, so we did receive amazing funding. Should I grab the phone? We can have like a